How you doing, ladies and gentlemen? This is Indeed Gaming here. I am, in fact, Mr. Indeed, and welcome to my channel. Please do like, share, and comment on this video, and we're going to get right into it. Now, this video is kind of a follow-up video, honestly, to the video I just made, just because I had actually made that video and dropped that video before I even knew about the Q&A thing. I had no idea. I don't have a Discord. Maybe I should get one of those things. But either way, they kind of answered the question in a way that, I don't know, there's a few different ways to read it. Because one, they could just be not telling the truth because they don't want to spoil things, which is fair. Or it could be that what they said is just the case. And then there's two different ways to read that. So basically, they were asked how many villain stories were in the game, and they said that basically there's three: the Harley Quinn, Dr. Freeze, and Clayface one. Now, and they also said specifically the three in the Rogues Gallery or something like that. Basically saying there's three people in the Rogues Gallery, which is ridiculous. I hope that's not the case. But either way, there's a few different ways to read that. One is that there's only three actual villain stories that are long and drawn out missions, which if that's the case, okay, there's only those three, but then these other villains you can run into and fight in the city. I'm okay with that, actually. Like if they're saying that okay, you're only gonna have these long drawn out stories with Harley Quinn, Dr. Freeze, and Clayface, but you can run into ManBat, Firefly, Deathstroke, Two-Face, any of these people in the city, doing some world. I'm actually okay with that. Because the thing is that when they say that there's only those three, well, we know that there's more villains in this game. Because we know that ManBat is in this game. But to be fair, Langstrom is dead. So if Dr. Langstrom is dead, who Dr. Langstrom is ManBat, but we also know that ManBat is supposed to be in this game. It's possible, like I said in my last video, that yes, someone or a being that looks like and acts like and I guess effectively is ManBat is in the game. It's just not Langstrom. So I don't know how that works, if I'm being honest. It's are they saying that, okay, well, we're not going to consider this the actual villain ManBat because it's not Langstrom, but in effect it is ManBat, so we're still going to call him that? I don't know if that's the case, if that makes sense. I feel like I explained that a little weird. Basically, are they not considering the ManBats that you fight? Because apparently, I believe that there's supposed to be multiple ManBats from a leak that I seen or something like that. Are they considering that not the villain ManBat because it's not actually Langstrom? Or are they just lying? Or are they just saying that we're only considering these three as villain stories, but the rest of them, like I said, you can run into them out in the open world. So you may be out in the open world and then you get a call over something about Killer Croc fighting some police somewhere because he done broke into some building or something. And you just have to go take down Killer Croc, and it's like you get there and you just fight him. It's not a whole drawn out story with a whole bunch of dialogue and everything. That could be the case. I'm hoping that that is the case, because only three villains in the game. That's not. I'm sorry, that's not good. That's just not good, especially if you have four heroes. Now, obviously, they have the Court of Owls. They have the League of Assassins. We know these two groups are in the game, but as far as I know, and I don't want to get too much into it because I don't want to spoil anything too much, obviously the Court of Owls is a story thing. So I don't really count that personally. That is my main story. I'm looking at at least this is how I'm personally looking at it. Maybe other people aren't. I'm looking at the villain stories as something that I can do beyond the main, like they're separate from the main story. So these are things that I can do outside of the actual game to still enjoy the game without the story. I would like more of that. So I don't really count the Court of Owls as the Rogues Gallery, if that makes sense. It probably doesn't, but that's just me. I'm not really counting that as the Rogues, the League of Assassins. I'm not really necessarily counting that as the Rogues Gallery unless I can run into them, like named members. I guess there's really only Talia and Raish and Damien that are named. I'm sure there's one or two other ones that I'm missing. I can't remember right now, but either way, it's not important. Unless I can run into them outside of the story, I'm not really counting them as the Rogues Gallery as far as things like extracurricular activities, I should say. Maybe that's what I should say. I'm not counting them as extracurricular activities that I can do outside of the story. I feel like we should have more. Like, just 3. I don't like that. I don't think that's good. Now again, if it's just like, oh, there's only 3 actual villain stories, but there are extra villains in the game that you can fight, just an open world, not like long drawn out missions, then I'm cool with that. I think that's actually pretty fair, if I'm being honest, because doing all those, the long drawn out villain stories, it's like, that's a lot of work. It's a lot of voice acting, a lot of animating. There's a lot of work goes into that. So I'm not really saying that I'm expecting every single villain to be on that level. I would assume that more than likely when they do like DLC, they'll probably drop villain sectors. I mean, not villain sectors. It's Marvel Avengers. I'm sorry. They'll probably drop villain stories as DLC here and there, I'm guessing. I believe they said that they have about a year's worth of DLC planned for this game. So, I mean, I don't know what the intervals for that are going to be or anything, but I'm guessing that we'll probably get more villain stories as DLC. And obviously we know other villains are in the game. Like, we know Penguin is in the game. Like I said, I'm not sure if we're actually going to fight Penguin before we get to that point. Excuse me. In the trailer where Nightwing is talking to him and he's explaining the Court of Owls to him, it's like, I'm not sure if we're actually going to fight Penguin or if this is more of a, we're following up on a lead that leads us to Penguin. We show up to him and he starts giving us information on what we need. So, I guess it's kind of up in the air right now. We don't really know. I feel like sometimes when they do these Q&As, they purposely answer things a little vaguely. But in this case, honestly, I'm not really sure. I think this wasn't very vague. I feel like whoever it was, he or she, I don't know who the dev was. I feel like they answered the question the way they answered it, and they used specific words on purpose. Because he didn't have to say the 3 in the Rogues Gallery, our 3 Rogues Gallery members. He didn't have to say that. And he also didn't have to come straight, like specifically say there are 3 villain stories. He could have just said that there were 3 villains, but he didn't say that. But, I mean, like I said, there's a lot of different ways you could read that, because he did mention the Court of Owls as a villain. But realistically, it's like, if he's just being vague, like answering the question vaguely and saying, oh, there's more than 3 villains in the game. It's like, well, yeah, technically there is more than 3 villains in the game. It's like, because we have Penguin, we have the 3 in the Rogues Gallery, we have the Court of Owls, we have the League. It's like, but I don't know. It's like I said, I'm kind of conflicted on it. I'm hoping that I'm trying to read this in the most optimistic way, that there's only 3 villain stories, but then there's also other villains that you can run into and actually fight out in the, like, that are just out there. I think that could work. I think that would be good. I'm hoping that's the case, because dropping the game with 4 heroes and only 3 like actual villains outside of the story that you can fight, I don't think that's very good. I would actually say that's kind of bad. Like, this is actually one of the things that I think was the problem with Marvel Avengers is that when they dropped the game, I mean, there wasn't a whole lot you could do outside of the story. And there were only two villains that you could fight outside of the story. I mean, obviously this isn't a live service game, so it's a little different. I mean, they're not advertising this as a live service game that they're going to be dropping loads of content for and stuff like that. So I'm not going to hold them to the same standard, obviously, or criticize them in the same way on that. But I should say, just me personally, because I want to enjoy this world as much as I can, I would like there to be more villains to it. So I guess that's just my take on it. I know I kind of rambled a bit. No, I rambled a lot on this, and I apologize for that. But I ramble a lot, unfortunately. So let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. How did you read that answer specifically? Because I feel like all the other ones were kind of stuff we already knew and stuff that personally I just don't really care too much about. It's like, but how did you read that specific answer that there was only going to be the three villain stories? Do you think that there's only going to be those three villain stories and then the court and the league that are part of the main story and that's it? Or do you think that we're going to be able to fight like Firefly or Killer Croc, people like that out in the world randomly? So maybe they were specifically saying there's only those three long villain stories and they just wanted to kind of hide the rest, which is what I would have done, to be fair. So let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Sorry I rambled so much and I kind of was all over the place a bit there. And I guess I'll see you guys in the next one. Indeed.